that I can think here, since I've been here, have mentioned Bob Holt as a very important keeper of a regional tradition, that Ozark fiddling and dance tradition. And really, when you think about it, this is what the United States, at least in terms of traditional arts, is. It's yes, we have this great cultural heritage, but that cultural heritage is made up of many local and regional traditions. And so those traditions are of national importance. And Bob Holt, for so long, has been such an important part of keeping not only the music tradition, but his dance tradition alive and well, and as hard driving as it ever is there in the Ozarks, that he was nominated for this award and was selected this year to receive it.
By the age of 17, Bob was playing the fiddle for dances for his own family and for neighbors and communities nearby. Bob's father, John, a premier whistler of dance tunes, and his brother, Uncle Node, who frailed the banjo, became primary sources for his music.
I learned an awful lot from my dad, just whistling and encouraging me. He loved fiddle music, and he could whistle a perfect fiddle tune. And I'd heard all of them for years and danced all night, many, many nights. And he'd whistle the tune, and when I'd miss it, he'd stop me and say, "Now, well, you missed it right there. That's not right." And then if I wasn't getting the right bow shuffle, he'd say, "Well, it sounds like you're running out of breath with your bow. You got to take another breath there. Got to breathe." And I learned a lot of it from him. There was a few old fiddlers. He'd take me around to all of them that was still living, and they'd play a little for me. And then the radio, and my grandma had a huge record collection of the 20s and 30s, and I listened to all the old classic records. Grew up with them ingrained in my mind.
Around 1953, Bob moved to Iowa for work, and in his spare time would play with country and bluegrass bands there. But in 1965, he returned to the Holt family farm near Ava, and to the music and the people he grew up with. A little more than a dozen years after that, Bob was finding out that when playing for the Ava Old Time Square and Jig dancers, his dance card was mighty full.
There was no regular dances around there for years and years, and we was working with the Cultural Heritage Program through the University of Missouri. I was teaching some fiddle apprentice, and Edna May was teaching some young square dancers. And so she'd get me to come up and play for their square dancing, you know, and make them tapes to practice by. And we got to where was inviting the public, and we got a pretty good dance, so other people, other towns heard about that. There's some people called me from Kabul, and eventually, and then somebody from Forsyth, and so for the last, I'd say, 10 years, we've had a square dance in one of those towns every Saturday night.
Keeping the tradition of old-time dance music alive is only one reason Bob Holt is being honored on Capitol Hill today. Another is his work with young, up-and-coming fiddlers like 26-year-old Liz Amos, who a couple of years ago, after meeting Bob at a fiddle camp in northern Missouri, changed her whole lifestyle to study with the master fiddler from Douglas County.
I was living at home with my parents after college, and I had packed all my stuff up to move into Chicago. You know, I had just gotten a new job, and I trained on it for a week, and said, well, you know, maybe I'll work this new job for a couple of years and then move down and, play some fiddle. And he said, you better not wait a couple of years. None of us might be around. And I decided that week I'd move down right then, and I did.
Amos says she's learned a lot more than just playing dance tunes from Bob.
He taught me how to eat right.
I wouldn't say right.
Put salt on all my food. To eat cucumbers and onions and
squirrel and dumplings.
Squirrels. Taught me how to shoot squirrels.
The first one she shot was right in the eye. It's interesting to somebody that had never been in the country. When I grew up there and on the creeks and in the woods most of the time, And she likes the outdoors better than anybody I ever seen. And when I take my nap, she go for a walk in the woods. And so she was interested in that stuff. So naturally, it was interesting for me to teach it to her. Sure.
Ozarks fiddler Bob Holt, who today, at a ceremony on Capitol Hill, joins the ranks of previous National Heritage Fellows B.B. King, Bill Monroe, and Doc Watson. Thursday night, Bob, his longtime guitar accompanist, or second, Alvy Dooms, banjo player Hugh Strawn, and 8 members of the Ava Old Time Square and Jig Dancers, Liz Amos included, will perform at George Washington University. After his return to the Ozarks, if you'd like to call and congratulate Bob on receiving this prestigious award, feel free to do so. Just don't make that call in the mid-afternoon, as that's Bob's nap time.
I've worked hard most of my life, and I figure I deserve it. I don't feel a bit. From 1 to 4, my office is closed.
For KSMU News, I'm Mike Smith.